Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 spoilers. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Did Sienna give Kyle the inside scoop on Holden? Kyle is prepared to take a plane to Los Angeles, locate Claire and win her over, and away from Holden, on the young and the restless. Kyle has absolutely no faith in him. Will he find his way to Sienna's nightclub in the course of his search? Could she be the one to tell Kyle the truth about LA and Claire's enigmatic friend? Tour guide? What transpired on the young and the restless on Tuesday? Kyle's parents attempted to persuade him to leave Los Angeles. The young and the restless vacation. Kyle was adamant on taking a plane to Los Angeles during Tuesday's episode of The Young and the Restless, and find Claire. He is going too far in attempting to get her back, as Jack and Diane informed him. Despite her desire to live independently and outside of Genoa City, Kyle is envious of Holden and Claire's friendship. Kyle ought to honor her desires, but perhaps his trip to Los Angeles. Now that we've met LA, the trip won't be a waste after all. Sienna, the proprietor of the nightclub, appears to be well aware of Holden's previous sexual encounters. Audra is included in that. Sienna made it clear that she dislikes her. It is impossible to avoid thinking if Audra personally offended her in some manner. Sienna exudes an unabashed, rustic charm. What if Kyle shows up to her club and starts talking to her? Perhaps he will show her a picture of Claire and inquire as to whether Sienna saw her with a man at the club. Would Kyle be able to show her a picture of Holden? Perhaps not. What if, however, he flashes some cash in return for information regarding Holden's background? Sienna will quickly assess Kyle and determine that he is wealthy and has enough of money to spend. However, we can assume that she is aware of Holden's secrets, and perhaps she will tell Kyle if the price is right. Holden was sweating profusely in front of Claire because of Sienna. In front of Claire on The Young and the Restless, Holden appeared anxious. We must give it to Sienna. Holden was laid back and endearing as his evening with Claire started. He appeared embarrassed and wanted to flee and hide somewhere by the time Sienna had finished reminding him about Audra and his typical poor taste in women. It was all in that expression on his face. Now that Claire had met one of the ladies from his past, he appeared nervous and concerned about what she would think of him. Additionally, it sounds like Holden and Sienna had a relationship while he was residing in Los Angeles, based on their private communication. Perhaps he had an affair with Audra. That could be the cause of Sienna's dislike for her. Anyway, it seems like Kyle might have a valid cause to be wary of Holden. Kyle keeps saying that he's a player, so perhaps he is. Why doesn't Kyle and Harrison simply remain at home? Harrison and Kyle ought to hang out more on The Young and the Restless. It would be best for Kyle to just let Claire live her life and handle the Holden matter on her own. He's heard from others that she's a mature woman who can manage herself. Harrison, his adorable young boy, needs and desires his attention. Claire spends the majority of her time with Kyle and Harrison on The Young and the Restless. They don't spend a lot of time together as father and son. Let's hope Sienna plays some part in Kyle's adventure if he does actually travel to Los Angeles. The only thing that might make Kyle's trip worthwhile is her relationship with Holden. She might be able to provide him with information on mystery man Holden Novak. When must Kyle stop saying sorry? Welcome to The Young and the Restless Daily YPP for a brief. You're almost halfway through. Recap of the most incredible, or what the hell did we just watch? Moments from today's episode. Now, let's get started. The Young and the Restless events. On The Young and the Restless, Diane and Jack. In an attempt to get back in touch with Claire, Kyle told his parents he was leaving for Los Angeles. Naturally, Jack and Diane fired up the trusty parent helicopter and gently explained to their kid why this would not be the greatest course of action. Even if Jack and Diane mean well, they would want to think about letting their grown son begin making certain decisions on his own without supervision. When Kyle told Jack and Diane that he might have overreached himself by proposing to Claire and promised to take her to Paris, we were left scratching our brains. Correct. Because wealthy CEOs with romantic tendencies simply detest marriage offers from women. How differently should the younger main man from Young and the Restless have handled the Audra situation? He also acknowledged that he didn't manage it properly. Audra was focusing on Kyle in France and was committed to following Victor's instructions, so he would provide funding. Victor even showed Kyle respect in the end by renouncing his attempt to separate them. Kyle has a track record of acting in his own best interests and getting shut out. He plans to fly to Los Angeles, but he could always use his parents' helicopter if they're all booked. Do you want further information? We've got you. The greatest comprehensive Y&R recaps may be found online at Soap Central. You may even read all of them from more than 30 years ago. We also provide daily spoilers if you are unable to wait for the next episode. The 2 Scoops is as close as we can get to being a watching party without really being a show. So whatever you do this weekend, please remember to read it for some chuckles. Hey, admit it, we're funny. The best thing is that we want to know if you agree or disagree. Leave a comment below as usual. 1. Love, loss, and the need for control. Kyle's obsession. Kyle Abbott, a character on The Young and the Restless, has always been a man who believes in acting. Sometimes rashly, sometimes stupidly, but always with passion. He moves with the resolve of a man who won't give up when he sets his sights on something or someone. Depending on who you ask, such quality has made him both admirable and unbearable. The show this week vividly depicted that exact contradiction. Kyle thought he had waited long enough for Claire Grace to figure things out in Los Angeles since he couldn't get rid of his feelings for her. He was driven to the brink of insanity by his jealousy of Holden Novak. He has no faith in Holden, and he has no faith in Los Angeles, which to Kyle is a city of danger, temptation, and reinvention wrapped in neon lights. Even though Jack and Diane begged him to respect Claire's autonomy, Kyle made it plain that he was taking a plane to Los Angeles. Kyle is on a mission, whether it's motivated by love, ego, or perhaps both. And even though his parents attempt to hide their worry behind their wisdom, they are unable to conceal their annoyance at seeing their son make the same mistakes over and over again. Jack is especially aware of that restless sensation because the Abbott blood is infused with a strong desire to fix, battle, and chase. Diane's maternal instincts, however, inform her that Kyle is seeking approval rather than love. Kyle's heart is now a battleground between pride and sincere desire following the breakdown of his marriage to Summer, the emotional roller coaster with Audra Charles, and his poorly timed engagement to Claire. Kyle, however, has made up his mind. He can't stop thinking while he arranges his flight. What is Holden Novak hiding? And who is he exactly? 2. Entering the scene, Sienna Bacall. Here comes Sienna Bacall, the mysterious and seductive new star in Los Angeles. She owns a nightclub, and her magnetism lights up her space just as much as the limelight. Sienna instantly gives the Y&R canvas a new texture with her smoky voice and censored wit and ability to read people like open books. She is the type of woman who has witnessed everything, endured it all, and isn't hesitant to share it with others. In a scene that virtually hums with tension, we first encounter Sienna. Claire and Holden show up at her club, apparently for a laid-back evening. However, the atmosphere changes as soon as Sienna and Holden meet eyes. The past there is unsaid, jagged, and perhaps tragic. Her slow, knowing smile that says, "I remember everything you'd rather forget," is how she welcomes Holden. The conversation alternates between being kind and being confrontational. With purposeful malice, Sienna names Audra in a sarcastic comment about his usual taste in women. Ever the perceptive one, Claire picks up on the tension right away. Holden starts to lose his laid-back charm. He tightens his laugh. He becomes guarded, almost childlike in his body language. Suddenly, the self-assured tour leader appears to be a guy with ghosts pulling at his sleeve. What about Sienna? She enjoys it. She doesn't have to yell or use derogatory language. Her strength comes from recollection, implication, and the way she maintains silence long enough to make the other person uncomfortable. The mistrust has already been sown by the time Holden and Claire depart. Even though Claire wants to enjoy her independence, she can't help but wonder about Holden's true relationship with Sienna and Audra. And that's precisely how the next domino falls. Viewers. 3. When Worlds Collide. The nightclub encounter. When Kyle finally makes it to Los Angeles, the city welcomes him with its typical paradox. Dreams and lies, brightness and shadows. He visits coastal cafes and hotel lobbies in his quest for Claire, but the true turning point is when he overhears a conversation in his hotel bar. A club owner named Sienna used to date that Holden guy who's been hanging around the music scene again. According to 2 industry insiders, Kyle just needs to hear that. In a matter of hours, he finds himself at Sienna's club, a chic, ambience-filled venue featuring velvet booths, throbbing jazz rhythms, and the subtle scent of pricey liquor and aspiration. Sienna recognizes him right away. He is the type of individual that strives to fit in even though he doesn't belong there. Behind those self-assured eyes, tailored, tense, and carrying emotional load. She doesn't ask for his name when he walks up to her bar. "You're either lost, or you're looking for someone who doesn't want to be found," she says with a sly smile. Taken aback by her accuracy, Kyle confesses that he is trying to learn more about Holden Novak. Sienna's countenance changes little, but definitely when she hears that name. Before answering, she gets herself a drink, as if she needed the liquid buffer before jumping into that specific pool. She repeats, practically tasting the word Holden Novak. A man is now leaving ruins in his wake. Kyle offers to buy her time or her truth, while being cautious not to come out as overly desperate. Sienna chuckles. "I have a lot of both, sweetie. I don't require charity from a wealthy boy who has problems with his mother." She couldn't possibly realize how near she hit the mark, but the jab slams home. The discussion progresses, similarly to a poker game. To keep Kyle interested, Sienna teases just enough while holding her cards close. She says Holden has a knack for attracting women who can help him advance emotionally, financially, or socially. She remembers his friendship with Audra, his tendency to disappear when things were difficult, and his remarkable capacity to recreate himself each time he relocated to a new city. "You really want to know the worst thing about Holden?" Sienna whispers, as Kyle begs for more information. He accepts his own deception. Kyle realizes then that Sienna has the dirt. She simply can't decide if she should keep it or sell it. 4. The price of Sienna in the game of truth. Every truth on the young and the restless has a cost. As soap opera viewers are well aware, money is a factor sometimes. It can be loyalty at times. There are moments when a heart is irreparably broken. Information is currency to Sienna. In LA, she has survived by being aware of when to talk and when to be quiet. Despite his bluster, Kyle is a novice in her eyes. Sienna accepts his offer of money, but only as a test. "Abbott, you cannot purchase honesty. However, it is available for overnight rental." She shares bits and pieces of Holden's narrative with him over a bottle of bourbon. The matters, the treachery, the transactions didn't work out. She portrays Holden as a man who is hooked to reinvention rather than a monster. She responds, "I'll give him that he's charming." However, Holden's greatest ruse is to make them believe they are the first person he has ever loved. Torn between guilt and vindication, Kyle listens. He is somewhat comforted because this validates all of his worries about Holden. However, another part questions whether he has gone too far. What if Claire discovers that he has been prying into Holden's background like a jealous adolescent rather than an adult? Sienna isn't finished yet. She passes a napkin with just one name written on it across the bar, Audra C. Sienna says, "Ask her what actually happened between the 3 of us. I'll buy you the next drink if she tells you the same story I just did." It is obvious that whatever transpired between Sienna, Audra, and Holden was intimate, messy, and incomplete. Sienna adds one last caution before Kyle can reply. "Be careful, handsome boy. Even though you could locate what you're seeking for, it won't improve your mood." 5. Uncovering the truth about Holden. Holden, meanwhile, starts to sense the walls closing in. It becomes awkward for him to spend carefree evenings with Claire. She's preoccupied and inquiring subtly about his background, Audra, and the reasons for Sienna's apparent strong hate for him. The fissures are visible, but Holden dismisses it. His charm wanes, his words stutter, and his eyes flicker when Claire brings up Kyle, and the audience can sense it. Then, one evening, he receives a text message from an unidentified number. "You ought to have been more considerate to me. S." Holden is certain about the sender. He understands what it implies, too. When Holden tries to contact Sienna in the upcoming episode, but she doesn't answer, the tension increases. Suspicious that Kyle could have located her, he begins to spiral. After noticing his paranoia, Claire starts to piece things together. Their mutual trust starts to wane. The plot changes from a straightforward love triangle to a complex web of secrets and power struggles in typical YNR manner. Once a supporting actor, Sienna ends up becoming crucial. Holden's allure wanes, Kyle's fixation intensifies, and Claire is caught between two men she can't really trust. 6. Returning to Genoa City. The repercussions of Abbott. Back in Genoa City, Jack and Diane are growing impatient as Kyle is hard digging for dirt in Los Angeles. Although they have always made an effort to help their son, this time feels different. Diane worries that Kyle is reverting to the compulsive behaviors that almost ended his relationship with Summer. Jack is concerned that his son is picking up the Abbott tendency to meddle and think that love can be handled like a business transaction. Kyle's absence creates a stir at Chabot. There are rumors concerning Summer's LA trip and questions whether Claire is truly worth all of this mayhem. A smolder of love remains between them, a dormant flame that neither has completely quenched. Old tensions are rekindled when she confides in Phyllis, Michelle Stafford. Ever the concerned mother, Phyllis can't help but remark, "Allow Kyle to pursue ghosts beyond state boundaries, if that is his desire. Perhaps he will at last see that you were the real deal." That remark, of course, is not ignored in typical YNR form, particularly when Diane overhears it at society and gives Phyllis one of those wilting looks that declare, "Don't start what you can't finish." 7. The confrontation. The secrets of Sienna, Holden, and Kyle collide. When Kyle eventually confronts Holden outside of Sienna's club, the narrative erupts. Two alpha personalities who are each certain they are the superior man for Claire make for an intense showdown. Holden is accused by Kyle of lying and exploiting Claire for financial gain or prestige. Holden responds that Claire deserves someone who views her as more than just a trophy to be won, and that Kyle is unable to let go. Then Sienna emerges from the shadows, both literally and figuratively. "Boys," she adds calmly, "at least get a ticket to my next show if you're going to fight over a woman." With this drama, I could sell out the entire room. However, something darker replaces her sarcasm. "You should have told her the truth before someone else did," she continues, glaring at Holden. One can sense the stress. Claire follows Kyle after noticing he wasn't returning her calls, and she arrives in the middle of the argument. She wants both of them to answer. The ultimate blow is then delivered by Sienna, who is fed up with the games. According to her, Holden's LA business endeavors weren't quite legal, that he had previously laundered funds for an investor connected to Audra's previous endeavors using her club. She severed her relationship with him after learning of it. It was a criminal betrayal, not a loving one. Claire is in disbelief. It's a brief moment of vindication for Kyle, because what Sienna says next reverses the situation. "Abbott, how about you? Don't appear so arrogant. You're just another man attempting to dictate a woman's decisions, even if you've come all this way to play the hero. Perhaps you don't realize how much you and Holden have in common." It's a gut punch of a line. With tears in her eyes, Claire whispers, "I just wanted to start over, and none of you would let me," as she leaves both men. 8. The repercussions. Sienna's influential step. The fallout spreads like wildfire in the days that follow. Holden is said to have vanished from Los Angeles during the night. After returning to her club, Sienna finds herself in the spotlight as a result of her connections to both men, which are the subject of gossip websites. Heartbroken and humiliated, Cal goes back to Genoa City. He makes an effort to return to work, but the guilt still gnaws at him. He lost Claire's esteem, even though he intended to protect her. Claire, meanwhile, chooses to remain in Los Angeles, determined to regain her independence for the time being. In a poetic turn of events, she makes one final appearance at Sienna's club. There is an implicit understanding between the two women as they enjoy a drink. Sienna whispers, "You don't owe any man an explanation. Just make me a promise. Make them earn it when they return pleading." Claire gives a small smile. That's the strategy. 9. The reasons this storyline is effective. This YNR arc, which unites Kyle, Holden, Claire, and Sienna, succeeds because it encapsulates all that makes the soap opera so timeless. Conflicted feelings, moral ambiguity, and the never-ending dilemma of whom to believe. The LA is revitalized by Sienna's introduction, narrative with depth and interest. She serves as a mirror, reflecting the shortcomings and intentions of the characters around her, and is more than just a plot device. She reveals Kyle's need to control things he doesn't comprehend. She represents the repercussions of dishonesty to Holden. In a world where males make decisions for her all the time, she is a symbol of strength and sisterhood to Claire. Significantly, it provides the multi-layered narrative that The Young and the Restless is known for. Tension in the family, romantic competition, moral evaluation, glamour, and mystery. 10. Kyle's redemption arc, the emotional core. Soap stories are so flexible that the villain of one day could be the hero of the next. Although Kyle's acts are foolish, they're not malevolent. Love, insecurity, and a frantic dread of falling behind are what motivate him. His redemption starts when he at last understands that true love creates room rather than chains, and that love isn't about control. His emotional development might be explored in a later plot point, maybe by getting back in touch with Harrison, patching things up a summer, or even moving back to Los Angeles. To apologize, but not for Claire, because The Young and the Restless is about how individuals grow, fail, and rebuild, not just about who ends up together. 11. What happens next? Future surprises are entirely possible. Sienna versus Audra, an impending battle. Perhaps Holden will return with a new plan or retaliation. Kyle's reckoning. Jack and Diane make him acknowledge how his impetuosity reflects the errors of his parents. Claire's evolution, deciding to forgo romance in favor of independence, possibly starting a new company in Los Angeles. Each thread has the 3 essential components of a great soap opera: moral ramifications, legacy links, and emotional weight. 12. Concluding remarks. In addition to being a catchy teaser, Kyle Gets the Dirt on Holden from Sienna is a thematic turning point for The Young and the Restless. It's about independence versus meddling, passion versus obsession, and reality versus delusion. As the unanticipated truth-teller, Sienna steals the show, not because she ruins relationships, but because she reveals the corruption that lies underlying them. Holden loses his charm. Kyle starts to lose confidence. Claire's wisdom melts her innocence. And in the process, Genoa City's favorite prodigal son discovers that sometimes the most important information you uncover is about yourself rather than someone else.